What you see up on the screen here are 6 films that I hope have the time to run the clips of, but we're getting sort of short on time, and I will quickly sort of tell you a little bit about myself and a little about how motion picture sound has changed since I started in the business in, I don't like to say, but the middle of the 60s, 1963. I joined the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. Oh, by the way, my name is David Macmillan. I think you see the name. I mean, I thought I wanted to be a cameraman until somebody offered me a job as a sound mixer to get on an airplane and fly first class to Calgary, Alberta. And I thought, well, what I really want to do is travel. I didn't really care what I did in film. So sound picked me rather than I picked sound. And I think that'll happen to most people who enter into sound. You may have a great interest in it, as I did. I loved music, I loved jazz, I loved the concert last night. But with the traveling, with the CBC, I decided, okay, I'm going to stick with this. This is really kind of fun. In the summer of 1968, I was fortunate enough to travel to San Francisco, the Summer of Love. And it was beautiful. It was a beautiful city. And I thought, why the heck am I going to go back and freeze my buns off in Toronto when you have this beautiful weather and beautiful city? So in December of 1968, I traveled to San Francisco and had the very good fortune to meet Francis Ford Coppola. He hired me to pre-wire a studio that he was building on the second floor of a building that he was going to share with a rock and roll studio, Coast Recorders. He paid me $2.50 an hour. Wasn't very much money, but it was under the table. He eventually gave me a raise to $3.50 an hour, but we really did call him the Godfather. And but he got me my green card and my union card, which was important for me to stay in the United States legally. The advent of the digital revolution and the smaller radio mics came along at the same time as the multi-camera shoots. Nowadays in Hollywood, we don't have a single camera where a cameraman, a lighting cameraman, will light a scene from one direction. And cameramen basically had the say over how a scene was shot. Now, because of time constraints and budget restraints, we're shooting now with 2 and 3 cameras, and you have to basically, as a sound mixer, you're shooting inside or just outside of the frame, and you have sometimes a wide shot, a medium, and a single on the same frame, and each one demands a different perspective. So what you have to do nowadays, we find ourselves using shotgun mics on the wide shot, but every actor is wired in case they have to cut to the single that they're using, because the perspective is going to change differently, And of course, with a wide shot, you're going to have a lot more noise, a lot more background noise. The greatest example for me was, of course, in Speed, which I'm going to show you, where we had a bus, Santa Monica bus, and the scene shows Sandy Bullock driving the bus. I don't think it's number 1. I have Natural Born Killers number 1, but I'll mention Speed first. But we had a bus pulling a generator with lighting. It was lit. The cameraman was a Polish cameraman, Andrzej Barkowiak, and the bus had a driver on the roof, a stunt driver, and it had a Popemobile front. We call it a Popemobile front because it had a camera platform encased in clear plastic so that the light would come through. And it always looked like Sandy's driving the bus, but meanwhile the guy sitting on the roof pulling a generator, at 4 cameras pointing back into the bus. There was no place for the sound mixer to go but in the exit door. And so I sat in the exit door with a recorder, 4 radio mics. It was the only way to record it. And we actually got pretty decent sound, but we'll show that in a while. This prison in the corner here is Stateville Prison outside of Chicago. It is one of the biggest and meanest prisons in all of the United States. It has the single biggest cell block in the country with 1,500 inmates. And the prison is run by 3 gangs. There's the El Rocans, which is the African-American gang. The Latin Kings, of course, is the Latin gang. And the Aryan Brotherhood, which is the Nazi skinhead hooligan band. And the El Rocans basically run it, and they run the main prison block that we had to shoot through. This is a long walk and talk where it's probably the longest walk and talk I've ever done, because it goes through the entrance of the prison, through the cafeteria, along another corridor, and into cell block B. In cell block B, the noise was so high that I told Oliver Stone, I said, Oliver, there's no way we're going to get a half-decent soundtrack in here unless we can quieten these guys down. Now, there's 1,500 inmates in this prison. So Oliver talked to Bob Lowe, Big Load. He was he was the head of the gang, the El Rocans, that basically ran that cell block. And Bob Lowe, or Big Load as his nickname was, said that, yeah, for a bottle of scotch, a bottle of Johnny Walker Black Label, I'll get it quiet in here. Oliver checked with the warden. The warden said, yeah, sure, give him the bottle of Black Label. We sent a location guy out. He got a bottle of Black Label scotch, gave it to Bob Lowe, and his 2 big bodyguards were even bigger than him, because Bob Lowe was 6'5" and weighed about 350 pounds, huge man. And his muscle guys that ran the prison, they just went out and started yelling up at all the inmates, shut that up. Yeah. And Big Load wants you to quieten down. And the prison, the noise in the prison dropped by, at least 3/4. You really have to basically be very sensitive to the actors when you use radio mics. Actors spend a great time of time preparing for a scene, especially a dramatic scene. In Birdie, for instance, with Matt Modine and Nick Cage, Birdie had tried to convince the army that he was insane, and they'd put him in an insane ward in a real asylum in San Jose. It was supposed to be in Philadelphia. And his friend Nick, Al, comes to visit him because he knows that Birdie's not insane and he wants to talk to Birdie. We were recording in a cell that had very high ceilings and had ceramic tile walls and cement floor and cement ceiling. And we were shooting with a 17mm lens so that it would give a sense of isolation to Matt Modine. Now, these are really sad scenes, so you don't want to you have to put a radio mic on them. It's the only way to get a decent soundtrack. And you don't want to basically have to bother the actors any more than once. And I told Mr. Parker, the director, I said that just give me a little extra time with the actors first thing in the morning before after they're in costume, before they leave makeup, so that I can make sure that the radio mics are on properly. They're going to be quiet. The clothing was it was older style military clothing, and it was quite noisy. So we wanted to make sure that we weren't going to get clothing rustle. Al Parker told Matthew and Nick that I would be doing this. So they were okay. They were down with it because they knew this was going to happen. And so we every morning for the period of time that we did those scenes, I'd go to each one of them, wire them, make sure everything was locked down, have them move around, listen to it. It was good. Then we didn't bother them again for the rest of the day except to change the batteries on the transmitters. So you have to be, as a sound mixer, really aware of actors' preparation. You don't want to become too technical with them because it bothers them and it annoys them, and it takes them out of the place where they have to be as a performer, as an actor.